So I wanted to make this video based on a recommendation from one of my friends who gave me some feedback regarding the story and the intention as to why I made this video and song for my daughter. My friend John thought it would be a good idea to maybe help others that have gone through something similar. And he said he had a pretty emotional reaction when I told him about the story and, the kind of the reasoning behind it and how ultimately the whole process kind of helped me as well. So I did want to go through that and just kind of talk about that. So basically, Angeliyah was a healthy baby. She made it to 38 weeks. She was ready to be born. It could have been at any moment, a few days before that, or a few days or a week after, whenever that could have been. The day we had our midwife appointment to kind of check everything and make sure everything was okay, was obviously when we found out things were not good. She was a healthy baby, like I said. Up until then, there were no inklings of anything being wrong with her. There was no history of anything. There was no complication. There weren't any complications. So it kind of was odd that this happened, to say the least. So we had a regular midwife appointment, and that was in home, as we normally did. And at that point, I believe it was twice a week because she was basically ready to be born. Couldn't find a heartbeat, so they tried a couple different machines to see if they could find a heartbeat. Maybe it was a machine malfunction. It wasn't. They couldn't find anything. So we decided we needed to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital, and they did, I believe it was a sonogram. The nurse did a preliminary one. She couldn't find anything. And so she had told us, all right, we'll wait for the doctor to come in and do another one to see. And the doctor came in and, basically told us she couldn't find a heartbeat. She couldn't see anything, and that Angeliyah had sadly passed away. So at that point, obviously we're grief stricken and, crying and upset, but we didn't really know what to expect. And I'm sure, people who have gone through this know that probably it's not something that you think about, in terms of what comes next. So we're in the hospital, and, at that point you have to still go through a birth. So you have to go through the whole process like you normally would. And so it was like everything on top of one another. First, you find out that your child has passed away, and then you find out that you still have to go through everything like you normally would. And then you don't even have the payoff of, having your child alive and healthy, which is terrible. So we go through that process, and my wife gave birth to Angeliyah overnight. And it was, a pretty upsetting experience, but also it was also kind of joyful in a way to be able to see her, even if she wasn't alive, just to see her. And she was really a beautiful baby. And I don't just say that because she's my daughter. She really was. So we got to spend, basically that morning, early morning, and part of the next day with her. And looking out the window, trying to get some rest after I think she gave birth somewhere around 3:00 or 3:30 in the morning. And we were up all night and we were exhausted. And I just remember looking out the window in the hospital. It was, the sun had come up, and I was getting ready to try and rest a little bit, and just thinking, looking out the window thinking, man, like, how did this happen? And the world still goes on regardless of any sort of personal tragedy or anything that happens. Life goes on. And it just seemed odd to me that was the case, but that is, that's how it is, and that's how the world works. But I remember feeling that feeling of alone, being very alone and kind of separate from the world, not really in it at that moment, just kind of observing it, which was an odd feeling to experience. So, basically there was no, like I said, there was no inkling that anything was wrong. After that, we had to, say goodbye to her in the hospital. And that was tough. You know, I remember we kind of were able to wheel her down the hallway with us, and I'll never forget that, you know, saying goodbye to her. We had to go to the right, and they were taking her to the left. And we gave her a kiss and said our goodbyes. And it was a really tough moment to do that. And but we did, and we went home, and we tried to live, you know, how we normally would live, which was not easy. You know, my wife still had to recover from the birth, which was difficult, and not having a healthy, alive child there to kind of, you know, help you through that painful time was beyond tough. And I can't even imagine for her how that was. So yeah, it was a very terrible experience. I can't really put it into words and to explain the feelings, but that's really the best I could do. So, you know, the writing of the song and the video concept and doing it and filming it and recording everything and spending nights and days, and you know, this was the whole process took, you know, a year or more to do the whole thing, just because I was doing it part-time, you know, when I had the time to do it, and it was a pretty big undertaking. So yeah, it was tough, but it was like a therapy for me to be able to kind of go through that process and, you know, be with her in that way and think about her and, you know, doing it for her. So it really helped me. It was a really real form of therapy for me, you know, to do that. So it helped me. And, you know, like my friend John said, maybe this can help others who have been through something very similar. Maybe there's something in the video or something you hear in the song that kind of sparks something that you can identify with, and just to know that, you know, people out there have gone through this, and you're feeling maybe the same feelings that a lot of other people are feeling. So we're not alone in this, even as horrible as it is. No one wants to really confront it. It's not a popular subject. There's no glorious and you know, amazing Instagram accounts about this. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to face. Even myself, it's hard to look it up, you know, look it up online and see the different support groups. It's painful. So again, if this can help in any way, I hope it does for people that have been through this horrible, horrible, tragic experience. In some way, shape, or form, maybe it can help even in a little fashion, a little amount. So I appreciate you taking the time to take a look at this and also watch the video, listen to the song if you can. Hopefully it can help in some way. But yeah, thank you for your time. Take care.